All right. Hello, superstars. Today you have lesson 2.3, day 3. We're just going to jump right into the actual assignment and do some work together. Again, the focus is reflections, and we're going to primarily focus on the y equals x and y equals negative x with our discussion. But before we do that, we're just going to go ahead and quickly talk about your most basic ones that, again, you will see on your quiz and then your test. So we're going to go ahead and grab your highlighter. I'm just going to go ahead and use it as a line with this color a little bit. All right. So again, a basic one, reflect across the y-axis. Now again, it's the one marked with the little y. So all you got to do is highlight the y-axis. And then you would count to the highlighter and reflect on the other side. So let's just go ahead and do a bunch of highlighting, and then we can do some of the problems together. So let's go ahead and say, okay, y-axis again. Number 3 is the x-axis. Again, that is the horizontal one. Let me zoom in a little bit better for us. And if you notice, once you start your accounting process for number 3, G and then also G prime would stay on the highlighter because that dot is on the highlighter, so you wouldn't have to do any actual counting for that one. Number 4, we've got across the x-axis. So let's actually go ahead and finish this one here. So what we're going to do again is take each point and we're going to go ahead and count and reflect on the other side by counting in equal distance. And then, of course, we're going to label correctly. So let's see, S, that is 1, 2, 1, 2. Let's go ahead and label it as S prime. We do the same thing with R, 1, 2, and then 1, 2. R prime. Q, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, that's going to be Q prime. And then it looks like we've got P. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Beautiful. Now that you have all of your new primes, we're going to go ahead and connect it and make our new line, which is going to be a quadrilateral. So with your straight edge again, just go ahead and connect the points. Again, please don't freehand it. Try and make it as clean as possible. Because again, you want it to look like the exact same image. It's just the reflected. It is the same shape. It is the same size. It's just oriented a little bit differently by reflection. Again, these are called congruent images. All right, so again, those are the basic ones. Count to the highlighter, reflect on the other side. And then as we increase our level of difficulty, we notice that we then had the x equals and the y equals. So for x equals 2, if you remember, we went ahead and started at the origin and we did a little bit of counting. We're on the x-axis, so I count to the right because it's positive. That's right, 1, 2, put a little highlighter dot. And then you had to decide, well, are you going to do horizontal or vertical? Again, this was our first day of reflections. And we said, don't memorize it, just think about it. So let's see. If I do it horizontal with the highlighter, then that means I'm actually highlighting the x-axis, and we don't want that. We are going to go ahead and highlight vertical. And again, this is one of the mistakes that students make. X equals, so they highlight the x. That's the x-axis. Number 6, same strategy. Go ahead and start at the origin, but this time it says x equals -1, so we're going to count left 1, put a little highlighter dot. Again, same concept. Do I highlight horizontal or vertical? If I highlight horizontal, that's the x-axis. I don't want the x-axis, so I highlight vertical. Now, if you notice on number 6, the counting is a little bit easier for students. The one on number 5, there is some overlapping. That one's a little bit more challenging for students. But to be honest, that's easier for us as teachers to grade because if students don't have the correct overlapping, then that means obviously they did not reflect it correctly. So again, be very careful with your counting on these ones here. All right, so 7 and 8, it has a y equals a number. So same idea, start at the origin, but it says y equals -1, so that means I'm going to count down 1, put a little highlighter dot. And then again, we ask ourselves, which way do we highlight, horizontal or vertical? Again, we do not want the y-axis, so if you choose to highlight vertical, you are actually highlighting the y-axis. We don't want that. So let's go ahead and highlight horizontal. Again, the counting is going to overlap, so let's actually finish this one together. So let's see, it doesn't matter where you start, just make sure you count for each one. If I start at S, that's 1, 1. T, that's 1, 2, 3. Again, I'm counting to the highlighter, reflecting on the other side, 1, 2, 3. Make sure each one has S prime, T prime. Oh, U, that's a real quick one, 1, 1. And then finally, the last one, R. So let's see, 1, 2, 1, 2. Now remember, we want to connect them correctly. So make sure you get all 4 points because it is a quadrilateral. Let's see if I start here, travel over there, and continue. So if I were to hand grade this, again, for your quiz, I would be looking for that overlapping pattern. And if you don't have your overlapping pattern, then unfortunately it's either no credit or partial credit. So again, be very careful there. All right, let's go ahead and just highlight number 8, and then again, you can do some counting on your own. It says y equals 2, so let's see, go ahead and move up 1, 2, put your little highlighter dot. Reflect across y equals 2, again, not vertical because that's the y-axis, but horizontal. Excellent. All right, I'm going to go ahead and ask our awesome substitute to go ahead and pause here and give you guys approximately 5 minutes to do anything that you need to complete number 1 through 8. Again, I just helped you fully on 2, helped you highlight all of them. You just need to practice your counting and your labeling. So again, remember, label after each point. All right, go ahead and pause the video. All right, welcome back. All right, this is our main focus here of the day. Again, these are the ones that the students struggle with the most. So we are, of course, going to go ahead and practice our highlighter. And then we're going to go ahead and do our counting. So there's a variety of ways to do your counting on y equals x. So I'm going to try and hopefully show you the best way that I know how to do it. And then if you have a different strategy, maybe that'll work for you. All right, so the key thing again about y equals x, you want to think about as an uphill line. We read left to right again, so we want to travel uphill. Number 10, y equals x, also uphill. But when you get to 11 and 12, where it says y equals -x again, that is downhill. So a lot of students on their assessment get the two confused. So again, please be very careful there. All right, so let's do some highlighting first, and then we will count. So the highlighting, what you're going to do is take your straight edge again, and you want to go ahead and connect it. Again, it's a little bit easier for mine because I have the computer. If I make a mistake, I can just undo it. But if you're doing it highlighter, you got to be just a little bit more careful. Essentially, y equals x is going to travel this direction, going uphill. Notice it's going to pass through the origin right through the very center. So again, y equals x, reading left to right, traveling uphill. So same thing with number 10, traveling uphill. So you would use your straight edge, like a note card, bus pass, something like that, and you would make your highlighter in the same way, traveling uphill. Again, that's y equals x, because x is positive, and that means going uphill. Where on 11 and 12, y equals -x, instead of uphill, that's downhill because it says -x. Reading left to right, it would start up here actually, and then it would go downhill. Notice it's passing through the origin. Same thing on number 12, y equals -x. Start up here so that you can have it go downhill. Again, those are the things that students get confused on. They can count it pretty well, but again, it's that initial highlighter line that messes students up. All right, go ahead and highlight number 16 real quick. Y equals negative x. You should be asking yourself, is that the uphill or the downhill? If you have an accommodation for a note card, you may want to go ahead and include that concept. Y equals x is uphill, maybe write it out. Y equals negative x is downhill. All right, if you've done your highlighter for 16, go ahead and do your highlighter for 14. Y equals x. Again, that one is uphill. All right, let's go ahead and practice a little bit of counting on number 10. So the way that I do it again is I keep that concept of a diagonal. And one thing that students have found very helpful since you're using a pencil is to make a little bit of kind of like dragging mark across. So again, we want it to be on the other side. So T needs to be reflected on the other side and labeled as T prime. So this is what you can do with your pencil. Again, you want to count to the highlighter. Since the highlighter is diagonal, we are going to count diagonal, which means instead of counting up, down, left, right at all, we're going to count diagonally, which is like this. Half, half. So in other words, on the other side, it would be reflected right here. This is T prime. So again, half, half. But since you have an eraser, we're going to go ahead and erase that little dragging mark across. All right, let's try it again. Let's try S. Now remember, don't go along the edge of the triangle, count diagonally. So let's see, half, half. Notice I'm going through the box and I stop at the edge of the box. So let's see here, that would be S prime. Let's erase that little dragging mark there. All right, now use a little bit farther away from the highlighter. So we're going to try our best. Again, we're going to try the dragging across. Don't go along the edge of the triangle. So let's see. 1, 2, half. So that's 2.5 boxes diagonally. So let's see. Half, 1, 2. So right here would be U prime. All right, let me show that dragging again. So with your pencil, because you can erase it just like I did there again, it's 1, 2, half. Then we go half, 1, 2. Gets it right there. We make our little point. We go back and lightly erase that. And that allows us to go ahead and connect our 3 points to have our new triangle. Beautiful. Overlapping. Quick for us to grade, we'd be looking for your highlighter first. Is your highlighter the correct way, meaning uphill or downhill? And then is your overlapping image correct? All right, for this one, if you notice, it's not going to overlap because the pre-image is completely on one side of the highlighter, so it means our reflected image is going to be on the other side of the highlighter. So remember, it doesn't matter where you start. Most students like to start with the closer points, though. So let's see, that's half, half. That is U prime. And then again, we erase that little dragging mark there. Maybe you want to go up here to V. Again, it doesn't matter the order, just do all of them the same way, counting to the highlighter and reflecting equal distance on the other side. So let's see, diagonal, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that one's a little bit easier because they don't have the half. Let's do 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So again, go home, tell your family, we are teaching you how to count. All right, last one is a W, the exact same thing. So, if you notice this time, the edge of the triangle is actually along the diagonal. Okay, that's fine. 1, 2, half, half, 1, 2. Now, some people actually line up their straight edge to help assist them with the diagonal counting, and that's a fantastic trick to do. And again, we go back and erase that. Then we simply connect it. Oops, sorry. I'm supposed to use that true straight edge style. There we go. Again, not freehand. Use your straight edge to help you out. I got the computer program that makes it a little bit easier for me as well. So again, we just did a downhill highlighter, y equals negative x. Previously, we did a y equals positive x. Again, you've got some to try on your own. But before we close out our instruction, we want to go ahead and take a look at the rules again. So if you notice, you got several to do, some more repeat ones from that first section to see if you were paying attention, a little bit more y equals x and y equals negative x, and so on. So go ahead and turn to the back. Now, with the separate colors on mine, it is a little bit easier for students to observe. However, when you guys have it printed on a piece of paper, it looks like one is just a little bit lighter than the other, but the key is to think about the original, or called the pre-image, and you want to move to the image. So in other words, on 23, I'm going to go ahead and take my highlighter. And if you remember the concept of equal distance for the spacing. So if I'm at M and I want to move to M prime, my total is 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. So that means the equal distance, or half, would be at 2 spaces. So I put a little highlighter mark there, 2 spaces. And then I ask myself for this one, am I going to make it horizontal, vertical, diagonal? Which way do I need to make my highlighter? Well, if you notice, if I do my highlighter like this, that will make all the points equal distance. K and K prime is only 1 space away from the highlighter. L and L prime, again, equal distance. So the way that we go ahead and write our answer is we would say reflection across. Now, this is not the x-axis. This is not the y-axis. From the origin, I would have to count up 1, 2. So that would be an equals 2. But the question is it x equals 2 or is it y equals 2? And if you notice, this is the y-axis, right? So I count up 1, 2, which is the y-axis. So y equals 2 is my rule. 1 second. So same concept with the other ones. Again, try and find the equal distance and then see if it is x equals, y equals x, y equals negative x, something like that. All right. Find the coordinates of the vertices of each figure. So for this one, it wants you to go ahead and actually reflect it, but then write down the ordered pairs. Now, we might ask you specifically about the quadrants, or we might ask you about the vertices. So let's see, which one should we do? Let's do x equals 2. So for number 26, grab your highlighter. It does not say the x-axis, it says x equals 2. So from the origin, go ahead and move right. 1, 2. Oops, not quite ready for my highlighter. From the origin, write 1, 2, because it says x equals 2. And then decide, are you going to make it horizontal or vertical? X equals 2. It is not horizontal because that would be the x-axis. So we want to make it vertical. And then again, we're just going to go ahead and count and reflect on the other side. So let me zoom in a little bit. So let's see, K, that's going to be 1, 2, 1, 2. That is K prime. J, that is 1, 2, 1, 2. J prime. I, that is 1, 2, 1, 2. I prime. All right, let's go ahead and connect it, make our awesome image, and then we'll go ahead and talk about the actual vertices, meaning the coordinates for that letter. Let's go ahead and connect it. Beautiful. So that's a repeat of what we did previously, but that new part here again is what is the actual coordinates. So for J prime, I'm going to go ahead and start from my origin, and I want to move to get to J prime. So let's see, that is right 1, 2, 3, 4. So right 4 and up 1, 2, 3. Right 4, up 3. So that would be positive 4 and positive 3, because again, it's right 4 and up 3. That happens to be in quadrant 1. Let's see, I. If you notice I prime, that is actually on the y-axis, so that's not a quadrant. There is no movement for the x, so that's going to be a 0. There's no left or right movement, so it's just going to be up. 1, 2, 3, 4. So no left or right, that's a 0. Up 4, so that's a 0, 4. A lot of students mistakenly say 4, 0. But remember, if you put 4 as the first number, that means you would move right 4, and then 0 being the second number, that'd be up 0. But that's not what we have. We have 0, 4. All right, last one, K prime. This one, see, this one is right 1, 2, 3, 4. So that means the first number would be 4. But we don't go up or down at all because it stays there. So that one is the 4, 0. So again, that's what students get confused a lot is anytime there's a 0 involved, they count correctly, but they put it in the wrong location. So again, be very, very careful. So J prime is in quadrant 1. I prime is on the y-axis. K prime is on the x-axis. Remember, it goes quadrant 1 up here in the top right, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and then finally quadrant 4 at the bottom right. All right, the last part of your actual assignment is going ahead and practicing some solving equations. So again, we're going to ask that you try your best using distributive property, combine like terms, variables on both sides. And again, it was an excellent chapter 1, so hopefully you still have those skills. All right, you have the remaining time in class to be able to continue. Hopefully, maybe you can finish all of it or finish a lot of your actual assignment. All right, have a great day, guys.